Today is the day 8 of the November to Remember series, and I know we've had a very interesting and educative time. So today we'll have Dr. Sylvia Maduka who will be taking us on career navigation and essential skills for employment. I am very definitely sure that it's going to be a very exciting time. So I'll just take us briefly through our bio. Dr. Maduka Sylvia is a versatile business leader and project manager with over 20 years progressive experience serving in fast growth startup companies in consulting, technology, financial services, and oil and gas industries, providing core business operations and innovation human resources operation solutions. She has led HR tech business transformation projects within cultural and geographical diverse organizations, with particular focus on supporting those organizations achieve business sustainability through their talent strategies. The platform that she has gone through as she has served is also as on coaching and consulting competencies in, and she has given in-depth exposure in handling tough business stakeholders, engagement conflicts, either with employees, executive leaders, and community governments. She's an alumnus of the Lagos Business School Senior Management Program, and she holds a bachelor's degree of science in social and graduate in with a merit in MBA and with a focus in employee relations from the University of Lancaster, United Kingdom. I believe with this profile, I believe we're in safe hands that Dr. Sylvia Maduka is going to take us through career navigation and essential skills for employment today. So, I would like to hand over to Dr. Maduka Sylvia as she takes us through this exciting topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Great. So I'm excited to be here. This is a very interesting topic, and I'm hoping that we're going to share, learn, and get ourselves a working roadmap that we will use when it comes to navigating our career. So I am going to share my slides real quickly, and then we'll just go through this conversation. So I would like to know by show of hands, how many of us have already been in employment before at one point? So have already started working, even though we're in school now, but I've actually gone through that whole trying to get a job process. And then I'll now know how best to tailor it. Or if we have a lot of people, you can do this by show of hands. So how many of us have actually been working before and have gone through? Yes, thank you. Uchechuku, Chendu, and I can see some other hands coming up. Just to get a sense of how, if we're starting from, I'm going to start trying to get a job for the first time, or whether it is people who have already been in working. Oh, great. All right. So I think we have most people who have already been working before, which is great. Fantastic. So thank you for the show of hands. I'm trying to share my screen. I don't think I'm able to share. Dr. Celestine, I think it's telling me that I can't share my screen.
Okay, just a minute. Let me put that.
So good. All right. So since we have a lot of people, which I think is more people who've already been in the job market already, so they've already been working, which is good. I will touch on briefly some other points for people who are also just starting off as well. And we can all learn from that. And it's sometimes also good to just refresh yourself on how it is in the job market, especially if you've taken a break to go back into education and then you're going to go back. Okay. So we're talking about career navigation. Oh, thank you, Dr. Celestine, for sharing. I think you're going to share the slides for me, which you have, but I'll just begin speaking anyway, because this is really a conversation. It's a refresher. It's not quite a training. It's really a discussion. And I'm hoping that we're also going to have lots of questions as well, because questions further help us to deepen our understanding on any topic. And then people really learn more from the questions than really anything that I'm about to share. Okay, so we're talking about career navigation and how best for you to go through that process. What I'm looking at actually is not the slides. It is, yeah, you're showing a Word document. That's what I can see.
Very good.
Yeah, so it might be you have multiple screens open. Okay, so I'll just be speaking until we're able to share the slides. Well, so we're talking about navigating our careers, right? And that is navigation in simple terms, really, is moving from, thank you, sir. It's showing now. So yeah, right. So it's career navigation and essential skills for employment. So unfortunately, sir, I have to be telling you next slide, which is, but that's what we're going to have to do since I don't have control of it. All right, so navigating your career is actually just moving along your career path. And then what are the essential skills you're going to need for employment? Now, that is either going back into the workforce after you've taken a sabbatical for education or for whatever reason, or whether you just had a pause within your career history, right? And then the navigation is how best you're going to move along that career in the direction in which you would like. When you go in for interviews, there's a popular question many people ask, which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or where do you see yourself in the next, couple of years? And it's a very important question that HR tends to ask. And that is because they want to ensure that your career plan and the career projection that the company has can be well aligned, okay? So navigating your career, make sure that you have, first of all, you have the understanding of your own personal career. And then when you bring it into an organization, you're able to juxtapose where you are, what the company is providing, and where you plan to go, because all those things have to align. The best employees are employees whose personal career plans and the company's projection for that role are aligned. Those are the best employees, because you want to have people that are going to come in and be passionate and engaged to do the work, right? So it really is more than just your technical knowledge, because you've studied, you've gone to school, you have a degree, you have a master's, you even have a PhD, whatever it is. But what is really important, do you have those skills that are relevant not only to the sector where you're going to work, relevant to the company you're working in, and that can ensure that you will be fulfilled when you're working in that organization? And then what else can you be contributing that gives you personally, a competitive edge? And that's what we're going to be talking today, because we're going to assume, for sake of this conversation, that you have the requisite technical skills for the job. Example, there's an opening for an engineer. I am not going to be expecting that you'll be applying for that job when you are in business. You have a degree in business administration and you're trying to enrolled for an engineering job. So we're just going to, as default, understand that the conversation we're having today is for the X factor that you're going to need to make yourself more competitive for a job. This is not about technical requirements for a specific role. We're going to assume that you already have that. Okay. And then what strategies can you put in place to have a fulfilling career within the organization? So if you can go to the next slide, sir. Thank you so much. So career navigation is about having your own personal strategy, to identify and pursue the right career path. Now, what is a career path? So a career path is the role that you see yourself occupying short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So let's say we're in an interview and I ask you, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? So that conversation is about how have you scoped out your career path in your mind? So what do you see yourself doing in 5 years? And that is very important because when you're able to articulate that, where you see yourself in 5 years, it means that you understand what your role is supposed to be within an organization, what value you're bringing to an organization, and how you see yourself moving within that career. And of course, you have to understand the industry that you're in, the sector is very important so that you know how best you can align your key strengths and capabilities to supporting the business within that sector. And then for you to also be able to identify where you plan to be in 5 years, it means you've also looked at the challenges and you know what opportunities there are. So one key strategy for career navigation is to do a personal SWOT analysis. Now, most of us know what a SWOT analysis is if you have a business background. But if you don't have a business background, it's just a key set of what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what opportunities do you see, and what threats do you see. And you have to be able to apply a SWOT analysis when you're thinking about your career navigation, because if you already know what industry and career you want to be in, it's important that you also then do this detailed SWOT analysis, and that will give you a very clear idea on how you can navigate your career within that particular sector or industry. And this is something that you should do before you're actually within the job market. It's something that you should have done before you even go for your first interview, because that will help you to properly articulate the conversations you have around the interview, and then to give you some kind of plan really on how you plan to position. Now, some very essential employment skills. So you've done your SWOT analysis, and then you've mapped out where you see yourself in the short, medium to long term, and you have a 5-year plan, right? You've done your SWOT analysis, so you've identified what are the strengths and weaknesses within your sector. You now have to ask yourself, so what essential employment skills do I need? Again, remember I mentioned that we're going to take, an assumption we're going to make here is they have the right technical skills for the job, right? So you're either a trained professional suited for that career that you have chosen. Now, some extra things that are really important for you to have, essential employment skills, totally essential, is communication and interpersonal skills. So important. I cannot begin to overemphasize how important it is for you to have good communication and interpersonal skills. Now, so for some of us who are not native English speakers, if you're actually going to be employed, or you're hoping to position around an English-speaking environment, company, country, if that is not your first language, I will recommend that you take some courses in business communication and communication, regardless of what kind of job you plan to do. Because it's really unfortunate how skilled you may be, but you are unable to properly communicate your value in a way that will be recognized. That is very challenging. So if you don't have those skills, I would recommend that you work on it. They're extremely important. I had an interview I sat in on an interview for a client who was recruiting for a highly technical role, an engineering role actually, for a project. And I We had to interview many people from different regions of the world. And there was a set of candidates that were very good technically from what we could see on their CVs, on their resumes. But they had a challenge communicating in English clearly in a way that was easily understood. And this was a mixed panel. And all of us were really struggling. But we kept looking at their CV and like, oh, these people are really good technically. So unfortunately, we had to actually call in someone from their region to sit in the interview and all of that. And then that helped a lot. But then this job was going to be out of Nigeria. And they were going to be leading a team of, I think each person will have had about 30 people in their team. And if we were struggling to understand what they were trying to say, it was clearly going to be impossible for them to lead the team effectively. And now this is not in terms of discriminatory, it's really just a case of communication. You can't communicate. So if you cannot communicate to me the value that you're bringing, then how are you going to be someone that I'm going to easily employ? So please, if it's not your first language, it's not my first language, I mean, you just have to take time and ensure that you get the requisite training to make sure that you can communicate effectively. And thankfully, there's so many free resources now on YouTube, Udemy, different kinds of courses that you can do just to practice your business writing and communication skills. Very, very important, critically important. I cannot overemphasize that. And then interpersonal skills, you're going to learn to have emotional intelligence. You're going to need to know how to collaborate. You're going to need to know how to be, a decent person. I do different categories of recruitment and engagement and consulting. And I find that different generations have different ways in which they communicate, in which they deal with people. So whether you're in Gen Z, Gen X, a millennial, you're going to need to have interpersonal skills. You're going to need to know how to engage different kinds of people, different ages and different exposures. And those things are very important because with some people, depending on their ages or exposure, some things may not be well received, so you're going to need to be mindful of that. In summary, you're just going to need to learn emotional intelligence. You're going to need to know how to apply it. The workplace is really not the place where you bring out unchecked emotions, if I can say that in a simple terms. Work organizations is not where you bring in unchecked emotions. There is a personality and a persona for organizational behavior, and it's just something you're going to need to learn. And it really just is about learning interpersonal skills, having emotional intelligence, and being someone that is sensitive enough to understand different nuances, different people, and then applying those skills when it comes to communicating. And then something that's also very beneficial is having critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Now critical thinking, for all of you that, in academia or in university, is probably easy for you to apply. And I remember when I was doing my MBA and they kept stressing this critical analysis. It was the most tedious thing for me at the time because it wasn't just how I had been raised to think when it came to my academics, before I did my MBA. So critical thinking is something that's very, very important, and it might be easy for most of you to do, but if it's not something that you do, then you are going to need to apply it. How can you think about something, really interrogate the thinking of something? Because many of the interviews you're going to go to when you're trying to get back into the job market is going to apply critical thinking. And you have to be the kind of person that is able to investigate different options thoroughly and then be able to articulate them, and sometimes quite quickly. You might be exposed to case studies, they might use scenario-based questioning for you. And if that is the case, then you're going to need to be able to do critical thinking. So what some of you can try to start doing in your pastime is just fine. They have all these case studies on, online interview case studies, and just try and get your thinking around, okay, so if I was exposed to this question, how will I deal with it? How will I be able to recommend a solution? And then why? So just practice it, because it is something you have to acquire if you don't have it now. Even though many of you at university may not have that problem at the moment, but it is something that you should try and look at. And problem-solving skills as well. Be someone that is able to look at an issue and provide solutions. So you have to be someone that is well-read, vastly read. It's really sad. And it comes out a lot in interviews when you have candidates that don't even know basic information about the world or the society they live in. They're not well-read. Like, yes, you might know your academics, you might know your professional information, but you can't be in an interview, depending on the level, and someone is asking you about the current politics, something regarding the economy, and you don't have a point of view. You must have a point of view on something. So to develop problem-solving skills is actually to also be broadly based in the terms of your knowledge base, read widely, not deeply. You mustn't be, a professional in all things, but at least have a touch point on the current issues. Current affairs is very important, especially in interviews. It's something that will really help you when you're trying to develop problem-solving skills. And of course, digital literacy and adaptability. Well, we can't if you don't have digital literacy, then I don't even know what you're doing at this point anymore. But you have to even be able to know per time what are the newest technical information, digital information that is coming out, tools, because you could get employed and go into a company that has a totally different software from what you're used to or what you've used before. And if you're not someone who is a digital native, that is in your thinking and in your approach, that could totally throw you off. Sometimes you have an interview where they give you a particular software and they want you to just, they want to see what you can do, right? So every time you hear something new has come out, please take a minute and just, go through it and think about it. That would really help you, because, you have to be a tech adopter. You have to be a digital native. There's no way, irrespective of your age or how long you've worked, you must be someone who is readily able and willing to adopt new technology. Next slide, please. So those are very important when it comes to additional skills that are required or essential for you to have when you're trying to get into the job market. All right. So now we're going to talk about, personal branding. So many of us may not have taken time to build a professional image. Like, we don't know what it is that how we present ourselves when we go out for interviews or when we go out to represent ourselves in whatever capacity. So what I like to say when I'm coaching some of my clients is that I tell them that you are a product that a company is trying to buy. So if you know that you're a product that you're trying, to sell yourself, then you have to pay as much attention as any other brand would when you're thinking about your personal image. So this is not just only about styling. It's not about what you attire, even though that is part of it. But it's very important that you have some kind of brand. And first of all, this makes you memorable. This makes you consistent. It makes you authentic. And then it kind of gives you an edge, right, over other people. So you need to take some time, first of all, and understand your own personal strengths and values. Do you have do you have a clear self-awareness, about who you are and what it is that you're trying to do? It's not just about, sometimes you may get into the cycle of I just want to get a job, I just want to get paid, I just want, who is paying me, something. But when you start talking about personal branding, it makes you a little bit more circumspect when you're even trying to find the kind of companies you want to work at, because you just spend time understanding, your career goals, who you are, you have a sense of self-awareness, the kind of presentation when you're presenting yourself, and you kind of know the company you want to work at, so it's very important that you build a professional image. So, and this goes far beyond, as I said, not just how you're attired, but even how you present, and how you present not only in person, but online, in the social media space. Who are you as a person? I always recommend that professionals have more than one social media, one for your profession and one for your, personal life, where you want to do whatever you want to do. And I tell people, try as much as possible that the two are not linked. The two are not linked, so that you can craft your personal image online, and then you can also have the freedom to do whatever else you want, even though you should also be careful about that. When you get to a certain level or stage, what you do online, can come after you in a later date. So you really need to be very careful. Everything you put out online, everything you write, pictures you take, places you post them, because at some point it could be used, it could be found. And then if you put anything online that is not something you would like your boss to see, then I will advise you not to put it online at all. Because, I've sat in many different disciplinary cases of employees where things that they did, pictures they were tagged in, place that they went to, contravened the code of conduct policies they had signed in their companies, and those things can come back and bite you in the behind. So I would advise that you don't do that. But when you're building your personal image, be mindful of how you want to be perceived. And this can also help you when it comes to networking in your career. So networking is not just being friendly. I used to think that's what it was. Be nice to people, smile a lot when you go to places so that people know who you are. No, but networking is a very fine science, because you know that you're meeting people that you want to leverage the connections for your own benefit at a later date. And to do that, one, you have to first present as somebody that will be memorable, meaning you're going to need to have your elevator pitch. You need to have practiced something that can sum up who you are in 2 sentences. So who am I and what do you do? And be able to say that in 2 sentences, so that when you have met a person, the person goes away with 2 clear things. I know who this person is and I know what this person does. If you're not able to articulate the value that you can bring or the value that you are selling, as I said, remember I told you each person is a brand, then you're going to be forgettable. And that means after you have made that interaction, that person is not going to remember who you are. Okay, so if you haven't done that before, I would advise that all of you just put down a very short elevator pitch, your name, and this is the value that you bring. Not your job title, the value that you bring. What is the value that you bring? Because if you tell someone, oh, I'm an accountant. Yeah, so what is an accountant? I met many accountants. Why am I going to remember you tomorrow, right? So please try and do that. So it helps you when you're networking. You meet people, you tell them what you do, they tell you what they do as well. And then, of course, you know that as soon as you're done making a networking connection, you must do the next thing, which is either send them an email, a text message, or something, just to solidify that connection in their mind, and so that, at a later date, it's something that can be pulled up. I mean, networking is a whole big thing on its own, but it's very important that you're able to network in your career. Many people today, I think there's a data for it. I think about 60% of job recruitments are done through networking. Only 40% is actually done through the regular channels of recruitment, through job boards and postings and things like that. So you have to be able to tap into that 60%. 60% means that you have to be someone who goes to the right places, engages appropriately, is memorable, is able to communicate their value in 2 sentences, and then is able to follow up effectively at the end of that engagement. And of course, to do that, you want to also ensure that the brand that you're projecting is one of professionalism, so that you also look the parts as well as sound parts. Then of course, you have to be somebody who has, clear values, apart from the value for your profession. It's always good if you're someone who can demonstrate either integrity, which is saying what you mean and meaning what you say and being known for that, or being diligent or being resilient. Those are things that really help you. Now, if you're trying to get into the job market for the first time, those things are also very important because you may not have work experience to communicate, but you need to be able to communicate either something that shows how you were diligent in something, which is a project, or anything like that, or how you've been resilient in the past. Those things are very helpful when you're trying to communicate your value. Okay. And I don't know whether I talked about doing your own self-assessment and setting goals, right? When you're navigating your career, and I told you you should do a SWOT analysis. Yeah, before I talk about the future of work, I just want to circle back into doing the career navigation, right? You have done your own SWOT analysis, so you know your strengths, your weaknesses in the organization or the industry you're going into. You've looked at the opportunities and the threats, yeah? So when you're also doing your career goals, which is something that's very important. Yeah, thank you for that slide. When you're doing your career goals, right, you're going to need to set goals when you're navigating your career. So the first thing to do is SWOT analysis. So you know where you should play, and then you should know how you should play. The next thing you need to do is to set SMART goals, right? So you don't just navigate your career just trying to, figure out, or let me just, let me just fall in here. Let me see how that works. No, you should actually set your short-term goals and your long-term goals that should be SMART. So they should be specific. Are they measurable? Are they achievable? Are they relevant? And are they time-bound? You need to set your own goals for your career. It's very, very, very important that you do that, because if you don't have a roadmap, then it may be difficult for you to align yourself properly as you're navigating your career, right? Because when you have done your SWOT and when you set your SMART goals, then you're able to identify gaps that you may have, within your own professional development or skill sets that you might need, right? And then you're able to properly assess those skills that you have and then determine your gap. You do your own gap analysis. So this is my SWOT, which I have done. These are the SMART goals that I have set, and these are my gaps. These are areas where I either need work experience, or whether I need a project experience, or whether I even just need to do a training. Is it a skill development that I need? It is so important that you're able to do that, because when you do that, then you can truly navigate your career and be in the driving seat, and then know where it is that you're trying to get into. Okay. And then I've talked about the essential skills you need. Of course, you need technical skills, which is your developmental skills within your career, professional career. That's very important. I also mentioned emotional intelligence, which is so important for everybody to have. You need to have self-awareness. You need to have empathy. You need to have social skills. Those things are very important in every workplace, because at the end of the day, for now, we're not working with robots. You're still working with humans, and all humans have, emotions and behaviors. And everybody likes to work with the person who is easy to get along with. Okay. And there's something I don't think I mentioned. I think I mentioned digital literacy, but I did not mention time management and organization. You're going to need to be someone who is able to manage their time effectively and to be organized, because you're going to be working with people, and nobody likes disorganized people, right? So if you've told someone, or if a team is expecting, or your manager is expecting a turnaround time for a certain time, you're going to need to manage your time effectively. Now, I know that most of you who are already in university do that hopefully well because you work with deadlines and all of that, but it's something they're going to really need to perfect, right? You're going to need to perfect that really, really well. And I've mentioned the professional brand. I'm just trying to make sure I cover everything because I want to end with the future of work, right? I've told you about crafting your personal brand really well, leverage your strengths and your skills. I've told you about social media. Please don't forget that. Please court your social media very well. And if you don't have a professional social media platform, please create one for all social media that you're part of. So whether that's on X, whether that's in Instagram, whether that's in LinkedIn, have one for professional, and then have a different one. If you can, make sure the names are not similar. Just try and decompose or deconstruct the two. And then anything that you already have online that is not something you would like your employer to see, please begin to archive them or delete them. They will help you in the long run. Okay. So the future of work, right? So let's talk about that. So there's going to be, there's already is anyway, the impact of technology and automation on employment. You know, so these are already things that are already in place and people are already using. So which is why you're going to need to ensure that your resume and your cover letter is very, very well done. Nobody has the time. Is the time when people were receiving thousands of CVs and going through them are no longer the case. Nobody does that. HR just sees a shortlisted number of candidates that have been sieved out by some kind of automated system, which is one of the reasons why I recommend that you can't have just one CV. You need to have a CV per job. So when you apply, of course, you have the base information for your resume, but when a job opening comes out, you need to tailor your CV to match the job description. Not to embellish, of course. I'm not saying you should change your CV if you don't have the skills, but you're going to need to align it with the job description. And what that's going to do for you is that when the automated system is sieving out CVs, it's going to be looking for specific words. There are keywords in every job description. So if you use those keywords in updating your CV, then you're most likely to be selected for an interview. If you just have one generic CV, then you're not going to get any callbacks. And it's one of the reasons why that happens. So make sure you have, you tailor your CV per job opening that you're applying for. And then your cover letter as well, make sure that it's tailored because, technology is already in place and automation is already everywhere. So also begin to prepare for roles in emerging industries. Things are changing so rapidly that is no longer just the regular kind of employment that people have now. Before you were either working in, you were a lawyer, you were a doctor, you were a banker, you were a lecturer, but now people are working in the sectors just keep coming out on a daily basis, right? There are new things coming out every day. So keep yourself, that's why it's important, like I mentioned, to know what is going on in the news, know what's going on in current affairs. That is the way you can position yourself for the future. It doesn't, social media may not give you everything that you need. You need to actually watch the news and read to know what it is that's happening, because it's from understanding what is going on in policies, in governments, that you're able to position yourself for the future. Because sometimes you hear in 10 years, the government of whichever country is building XYZ, and you're like, oh, that's my sector. That is what I'm interested in. And then you begin to position yourself accordingly. So the future of work is changing. Many of the jobs of the future, some of them are not even being developed yet. So you have to keep yourself nimble. You have to keep yourself updated. You have to keep yourself, informed so that you can position yourself effectively. And of course, ensure that your CV is matching the job that you're applying for. Extremely important. And then when you want to actually begin searching for jobs, right, you really need to research the market and the companies. Have a target company list. Since you are positioning yourself, you've done a SWOT, you've done SMART goals, and then you've done a gap analysis. You can't also attempt to find work without also applying some measure of science. You have to research the market and the companies. As I mentioned, tailor your CV to align with the jobs. So important. LinkedIn is such a useful avenue now for trying to find work because many recruiters just use that as their first point of call when it comes to recruitment. So very few recruiters are still using job boards and all that, system of working. It's very, very, very important that you keep that in mind. And then also in the skill sets that you're having, don't only just do learning that is based on technical skills for your job. We've discussed this already. Communication skills, so important. Emotional intelligence skills. Have some measure of self-awareness, be that person that's developed all these additional skills so that you're someone that can ace an interview. If you're not even aware of your personal brand, if you've not curated it properly, if you've not identified yourself as a product that a company wants to buy, when you get into an interview, then it might be difficult for you because you keep making mistakes that will not make you a candidate of choice. And that's not something that you want. Okay, so that's the future of work. So can we have the next slide? I think that will be my last slide. Yeah. All right, I think that'll be my last slide. Okay, so as we're going to conclude now, so we can take time for questions, I really want us, if we have to land on one thing when it comes to navigating your career and skills that you need for career progression, is that you're going to need to have a growth mindset, right? Don't see things as limiting and don't see jobs as a means to an end. Because when you have that kind of limiting mindset, it's actually something that is easily detectable when you come into an interview. Or this person just wants to get a job. Be someone that has this problem solving, critical analysis, growth mindset sort of an employee, a potential employee. Everybody likes that. I've been in HR for 24 years now, and I know that the best candidates are not the candidates with the best skills. They're not the ones that have first class. They're not the ones that have all the masters. They're the ones that are the most adaptable, the ones that have, the kind of mindset. Because you see, people, you can train for skill. You can't train for character. It's difficult to train for character, but you can train for skill. So if a company sees that you have the right sort of behavior, personality, a growth career, a growth mindset, then they're more willing to work with you because any other skills that you don't have can easily be picked up through training. But your character and your behavior and your personality is not one that we can, people even want to train on. And then, of course, if you don't have communication skills, how can we move forward? So the job market is evolving, but people are still in organizations and people are still people. So the foundation for being a good hire are still the same that has been in place and will still be in place for some time, well, until we start working with robots. But for now, most people are the people that will be in organizations. So everybody wants someone that is pleasant to work with. Everybody wants someone who communicates well, who is adaptable, is self-aware, and projects the image of the company that is pleasant and that people, want to be associated with. So it's very important that this career navigation requires a lot of persistence, adaptability, and a commitment to lifelong learning. You're going to be open to lifelong learning because things are changing faster than we understand it. So be a digital native, be someone that's open to digital transformation, because this is something that's going to be constant in the medium to long-term future for the job market. And I believe that if you have that and apply that in place, then you do very well. So thank you. I think that brings me to the end of my talk today, and I'll be open for any questions.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. It was a very exciting time. Any questions? You can drop it in the chats. Okay. Any questions? Okay. I think I can see a question. How can individuals ensure they remain relevant and adaptable as AI continues to reshape job roles and required skills?
A good question. Should I go ahead and answer it?
Yes.
All right. So a very good question. Thank you, Olayinka Ojo, for that. So as AI is actually reshaping jobs, I actually think this is to our benefit in a lot of ways. And what do I mean? So AI can do a lot of things, but the adaptable person is someone who is open to working with AI enhanced tools and not someone that is opposed to it. So you have people who they introduce a new AI generated technology for their organizations, and then you see people immediately begin to resist it. Resistance to change is not adaptability. AI is here. AI, I mean, this is the future, and that's how it's going to be. So what do? Be one who is clearly an adopter of technology. So they bring out a new AI-enabled software. Make sure you go learn what it's about, understand it, and then use it. And then use it to enhance your jobs. Now, don't think about it as taking over a job role. Look at it as something that enhances, because you see, the more you use your AI tools, the more you begin to master them. And then when you master them, you can now develop new ways of using them. No company is trying to phase out employees from their business using AI, but they're trying to say that AI can help to enhance, to create efficiencies, to reduce costs, right? So I think what we should do to show that we're adaptable is to show that we are adopters of technology, promoters of technology, and then you can see how AI can really make your work more efficient. I use a lot of AI tools. I can't imagine what I'll do without it. I use Gamma for my presentations. I use ChatGPT for my proposals. I use it for my work, and I'm proud to say that, because as I've used it for my presentations, AI is not going to present it for me. Like, it's not going to be able to communicate the value that it is in the presentation. So, like I tell people, there are always going to be humans in society, and AI is not going to take your job. What AI is going to do is going to help you to do your job more effectively. You must then ensure that you demonstrate that you can master that technology and use it to enhance your job. Once you're able to communicate your value, it's going to be very difficult for some software. Well, depending on what you do, I say that, depending on what you do. But I find that even after you've run the codes, if you're in software development and all of that, somebody has to pitch that to your client, your customer, to your business. Your AI is not going to do that for you. You're the one that's still going to have to do that part of it. So don't be afraid of technology. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. In fact, I say be the first mover. Take first mover advantage. Once you hear they have it, go and learn it, study it, master it, and then use it. Once you do that, you will see that you always have value in any organization that you're working at. That would be my thoughts on that.
Thank you very much. I think we have other questions in the chat box. Yeah.
The
Um,
next one, I'm not
yeah.
in immigration.
What do you suggest What do you suggest one does if looking for a project management in the construction sector in the UK whilst on a visa, having applied for jobs for months with no success? And I think someone else is also asking you to share the slide with us. The slide here you used for this session. Thank
Oh,
you.
yes, the slides. Dr. Zesner already has that, so I've shared that already. Lovely Ann Okafor. I don't really know how to give feedback on that because I'm not in immigration. So I don't know how that works really in the UK. I did my master's and I came back home. I don't live in the UK anymore, so I really wouldn't know how to help with that.
Okay. Thank you. Someone is saying that after using all the strategies you just said, that most of the times they don't get response from organization. So, what's your advice?
Yes, so organizations are really, usually HR departments in organizations are always understaffed. Very few places do you see where they have like ample, a good ratio of employees to HR personnel that they can do their job very effectively. But I always ask people that after you've done an interview, uploaded, did you send an email? Did you, or even sometimes you've interviewed for a role, many people don't even send a thank you to the hiring committee for the time, even if you didn't get the job. Remember that, why does Coca-Cola keep advertising so hard, even though everybody knows there's Coke? Everybody knows there's Coke. Like, why do they keep doing it? Is because no matter how good you are, you need to always be in the mind of your consumers. The same thing when you're hiring, so you go for an interview or you send in an email. Did you send them an email saying thank you for receiving my CV or thank you for the interview? Thank you for the feedback. Whatever it is, always try to engage as much as possible. I have personally, I've hired people that didn't do well in my interviews because I just liked the way they sent, they wanted to get feedback. Oh, thank you for the time you took on the interview. I really appreciated your comments. I wanted to find out whether you can give me further feedback on my hiring chances, maybe not in this role, but another role. I called them back. We had a chat and I was like, you know what? We can give this person another chance. I've done it not once, not twice. And I know many HR people have done that because at the end of the day, you're trying to ensure that you remain memorable. So sometimes it may not be for that role, but the hiring manager remembers that they interviewed a pleasant lady who wasn't skilled for this job, but I think would do well in this job. So if you apply for the job and you don't get feedback, then take it that you're not qualified for the job. But anytime an organization extends you an interview, I really believe you must ensure you leverage all the benefits from that interview. And it doesn't even mean that you may get the job. If you ever have the opportunity to sit in front of anybody for a company, you must make sure that that person remembers you. Even if they don't give you the job, you must make sure that you're memorable. Just remember that you're a brand that you're trying to sell, and there are other brands in the market competing for that same consumer. So what are you going to do? Just imagine you're Coke and there's a Pepsi. You have to keep on making sure that you know who you are. Of course, being pleasant and ensuring that you have emotional intelligence. So Kusa Fatima, please, and don't give up. Just continue to make sure that you keep engaging as much as you can. And if you do get an interview, make sure you leverage that opportunity to the end of it.
Thank you for that answer. So another question: how best can one manage a condescending character from one's manager, or skills to develop to manage it, even when you are identified to be doing well best at your work?
This is the one from Manage a Condescending Character. Is that what you just read?
Yes, yes,
All right, from one's manager.
yes. So the skills
You
you should
know,
develop to manage it.
Muniat, this is a very common problem. Unfortunately, it's a very common problem. You know, it is actually not something that is even strange, which is the saddest thing here. So what do you do if your manager is condescending? You have to first of all think about the company that you're in. Are there actually policies that guide how people behave? So can you establish that the manager is not acting according to the policy? Now, if you don't have that, the next thing you need to do is when you have a manager that is condescending, is to stick to things that are documented. So if you have a meeting with the manager and maybe the manager says something that is really belittling and still manages to give you a work assignment, I would advise immediately after the meeting, you send him an email saying, "Oh, thank you, sir, for the meeting we had today. You know, wanted to just recap the key points of the things you need me to work at." You're going to need to depersonalize the conversations you have with this person, with this manager. Those are the best skills to do. Focus on the work, stick to what is documented, and ignore everything else that cannot be documented. You find that people who have a condescending character are very they really do not like things that are documented because that makes it difficult for them to manage. So you mentioned here that you're doing your best to do your work. And I believe that you should continue to do that, making sure everything is well documented. Every conversation, refer to it in an email. If they come and make some kind of comment and, give you a task, say, "Oh, thank you, Stephen, for stopping by my desk today. I wanted to recap the things that you mentioned you wanted me to work on," so that everything you're doing, your engagement with this person is based on tasks and results. Task and result. And when there's no longer any space for kind of condescending conversations, then usually these people kind of back off, because people that have this nature, they're just generally bullies and it's a character flaw. And then once they find they can no longer bully you, they move on to the next person. So try and keep it professional, keep things documented, and continue to document things. Anybody who has a character like this hates documentation, and after a while, we'll just have to move on to someone else. Yeah, but if you do have policies, try and leverage the policies, and then you can maybe discuss with HR if the person, you can actually prove that the person is not acting according to the code of conduct for that company.
Number two, it's also very important to stick to performance currency. There are two types of currency in job place. Number one is relationship currency, which is very expensive. So if you know you are not that too good in that relationship currency, stick to performance currency, where your work speaks for you. Even if that person who doesn't like you wants to kick you out, they will see that if they kick you out, the company will be at a big loss. So you stay with performance currency. Relationship currency is very expensive, but performance currency will always pull you through in every when you come into that kind of situation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the last question is for people that have no study background on a particular job they've applied for, but got experience on that field, how would I approach this to avoid getting on the bad side with the organization, as they can get pick or how, I think the person means that how can this pick or select them for that job without no study background, just experience?
Well, I know many people that have been hired for work experience versus education. Many, in fact, is actually the problem are people who have study degrees but no experience. Those are the ones that I from my experience, have challenges getting jobs. Now, it depends on the kind of job you're applying for, but it's actually more valuable to have a work experience, because work experience means that you can hit the ground running. You're an easy hire because you can do the job that needs to be done. The problem is in compensation, because in some organizations, compensation is tied to educational certification and job experience. That is the metrics that is used for calculating compensation. So the person who has work experience and no educational qualifications will probably earn less than the person who has educational qualifications and job experience. Those are the only things that are different. And it's not even in all organizations. Yeah, so I think the person that even has the job experience is the one that has the upper hand versus someone who just has the educational experience. So I think you should just apply. I don't see this as a challenge at all.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Chidima Sylvia Maduka, for your time. It was a very, very educative time today. I would like to hand over to Dr. Celestine, to Professor Celestine, to hand over the award. Thank you very much.
Please,
All
if
right,
you don't
thank
mind, can I answer the last question
Okay.
that Fatima
Okay.
raised?
Oh,
Because
okay.
it's actually an important question, right? Thank you for this question, Kausa Fatima. You mentioned that sometimes not about the CVs, the bias nature
Thank
in
you,
mind.
ma'am. Actually, I would like to thank you for having such a wonderful topic. There are numerous questions on this, but right now the time is limited. So later, sometime I will have a word with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But please, I just want to mention that in no time in your CV should you ever include your age, gender, or nationality. It is not required in a CV. And any organization that requests for it is, first of all, doing something that is illegal. Secondly, doing something that is not best practice. And thirdly, I don't know why you want to work in an organization where they will even request for such things, because you cannot discriminate discriminate based on age or gender or nationality at all. So in the CV you submit for any job, you should not have that anywhere written. That's just the last thing I went to say. Please do not, if you have it in your CV, take it out. And if any organization asks you for it, you have to ask them, how is this relevant to the job? Because it should even be in the job description at all. So you don't need to put that in your CV. When they meet you in person for the interview, that's a different thing entirely, but certainly not on the CV. And if they want to discriminate against you, then they have to really show that you were not the best candidate for the job. So what I would say is make sure your CV is showcasing the skills that you have relevant to the job description. Take out all those from the interview. And when they call you for an interview, that's what I'm saying. You need to work on your communication skills. But even if they still want to discriminate against you, then those are things that, it's just some things that happen. But for the companies that discriminate against you, there's some companies that are looking for you for the diversity quotients. So you need to do your research as well. What sectors are looking for people within your ethnic background or your gender? Because many companies are actually looking for different things, because DEI is big in multinational companies and international companies, and they want to ensure that they're hiring diverse people. So do your research and align your applications to this kind of companies. Some companies just, there's no point even applying to them, which is why I said have a goal. You need to have done your SWOT and do your SMART goals, and then apply for organizations that are aligned with your own personal values. Not all companies are a good fit. Thank you very much.
Yes, but based on that again, before I'll summarize, most of the places like China, I know why Fatima is asking that. Some places in Middle East are also asking for age. In fact, there was one year, just 2 days ago, they requested for your age and for your gender and for your nationality in China, and then some part of Middle East. Generally speaking, like Dr. Chinema said, it is against the rule in other places. But these are places where job security is not there. In some places in China, once you're more than 50, they feel you should be retired. So, and then they tell you, people they take in PhD. I've been in China 3 years, so I can tell you more about that. So then they take people who are from 35 years old, who have PhD. And if you're more than that, they say you are not qualified for that. So these are discrimination. And that's why they don't have job security in that place. But the areas where you don't need to put your age, your gender, your nationality is where you are, especially when you are in Europe or you are in UK. So these are the things that goes on. And then someone also mentioned, oh, he has been applying for job. Now, it's not all jobs that are out there for you to apply. Some jobs are there because they want to use it to take someone who has already been in the system. Following the UK law or EU law, it means that you cannot take anybody without putting that job, on what do you call it, on the market. And people will have to say, okay, if not, they can be sued by taking that person without proper process, due process, and so sometimes these CVs are so the job advert is so streamlined to somebody's CV. It's very easy to know. There are certain things they'll begin to ask. When you look at it, you know this is not a job for you. Don't put up your CV there. I had an interview in one particular job, and then they told me, oh, you actually qualified. The agency was moving me in. And then they said, oh, did you apply for this job 2 years ago? That was when I was just newly, entered PhD, and then I said, oh, I can't remember. Then the lady said something. Don't apply for a job you are not ready for. I will never forget that. Don't apply for a job you are not ready for. So sometimes you apply for this job. I said, why? He said, because they keep most of these things in their database. So here where they keep database, your CV is just there. And when they roll you out, like the speaker has said, they discover that you have applied before. So the algorithm just pushes your name out, that you are not, even though you are now qualified for it, but because you have applied too much, and then, so when you encounter that kind of problem, use the familiarity process, or what do you call it, the networking process to get into a job market. LinkedIn, belong to an association, like many people here belong to IEEE, get to know people. The more people you know, the more the channel of miracles. You get in and then you try to know people more. So on that note, we want to say thank you to Dr. Chidima for accepting at a very short interval. The person that ought to speak today, came up a few hours ago, and with a lot of reason. And they had to wake her up and said, hey, we need you. And, so we really appreciate this time. Thank you so much for taking this responsibility. And then we want to give you what we have. Let me get it again. It's really, oh yes, I think I've seen it now. Can everybody see this? Can we all see this now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Sylvia, for accepting to speak to us, and we really appreciate. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So
I would like, can I say something, Doctor?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chidima, for your wonderful presentation tonight. In addition, I would like to thank Professor Wendy for this wonderful, enriching, insightful nights. Yes, in UAE it is night. It's 10 p.m. We start every day, and by the time we end, it's 11. But these things are enriching my knowledge, giving a lot of things to learn, to share, to discuss. I hope this continues for the coming years, and it's wonderful to be connected all over the world, globally, seeing people from different places. Really, I'm thankful to Professor Wendy for this wonderful sessions. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And remember, tomorrow we have 2 more days to go. And I've just taken note of people who have been consistent, because your certificates are already, they are ready. So we are going to give certificates on the last day. So we'll stay a little more to, put everybody's name that have been consistent for the past 2 weeks. I think I've been able to get about 20 people, who have been consistent. And then the YouTube for the whole program will also be out. by weekend. So we can go through them in YouTube. So we'll continue again tomorrow on very important aspect of ethics, law, how it affects us. It affects every area and every career. So, and then the PPT also will be out once the YouTube is out. We'll take it to everybody while you have your certificates. And please, when we give you those certificates, make sure you put them on LinkedIn. Let people know you have participated in that. It will also boost your career and boost your CV. So thank you again. Thank you, moderator. Ayeni, thank you so much. And see you all tomorrow. Thank you for coming today. Thank you so much, Dr. Chidima. Thank you.
Thank you so much.